point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 310th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. This show is coming from Brattleboro, Vermont, and we just had our town meeting, our representative town meeting.
We do it differently here.
We do it differently. It may be the only town in the country that does this, but the town meeting
There's something down in Connecticut does it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well,
Brattleboro is too big, really, for a standard town meeting because we don't have a room.
Burlington's not.
I don't know what they do in Burlington, but a lot of towns in Vermont that get big don't do the standard town meeting anymore. But we wanted to have a New England style town meeting, but without inviting 2,500 people who are voters into the room because we don't have a room big enough.
Big enough, right? So
what we've done is we've had a town meeting in which the representatives are elected.
Representatives.
And Tom and I have both been town meeting reps. I was this year, Tom was not. But this year we had something that related to energy and sustainability, which was the select board put a recommendation in that we put $10,000 into sustainability. We've had a sustainability officer.
We had a good one for a long time.
Paul Cameron was pretty good, and Phoebe Gooding was pretty good, and we didn't happen to have anybody last year. The money was allocated, but it was never spent. And there were reasons behind that were not sinister. It was just that...
It was economics.
No, it wasn't economics. The money actually was there.
No, I mean, we couldn't get somebody to do it for that price.
We couldn't, and we weren't even in agreement about what we wanted done.
That's true, too. Yep.
So this year they had $10,000, and what happened was when the issue came up, Abby Manukin, who was one of the members of 350 Brattleboro.
Okay.
I think it's what it's called.
So she's somewhat of a climate activist.
Yeah, she stood up and said, "You can't do this is a ridiculous figure. It's pathetic. You can't do anything with $10,000."
Well, she's right.
Let's make it $40,000. So
okay.
Orion Barber stood up, and Orion is, I think, he's not wacky.
I know Orion. He goes to my church.
Okay. And he stood up and said, we had $10,000 allocated last year. Let's make this 50. The money from last year is still left over. So that was taken up by Spoon of Coffee, who is a guy who's pretty active in politics locally.
Spoon usually has something useful to say.
And he's a thoughtful guy. And he stood up and said, you can't hire a person and have an office for $50,000. Let's make it $100,000. And we passed that. And in the course of doing this, we told the select board in pretty clear terms, we want a sustainability officer. So,
well, done right, it ought to be able to save the town enough money to pay
it should save the town a lot. Well, we've talked about what happened in Greenfield.
Yeah.
Where Susan Collins, Greenfield, Massachusetts, for those who don't know, Susan Collins arranged to have the town on 100% renewable energy.
As an option.
No, well, I guess it is an option.
You got to opt out or something.
You have to opt out. If you don't want to pay for renewable energy, you opt out.
Which is actually cheaper.
Yeah, the renewable energy is cheaper. So in order to opt out, you have to decide to pay extra.
There's about 3 or 4 people actually opted out.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Okay, we should get going on the actual show here.
Yeah, we need to get a picture up here.
A picture. We need to get a picture. Well, we have to describe what the show is first. Oh. And the picture doesn't describe it. It's not real fake. We try to make this real. This is, Energy Week is a collection of discussion about news articles that appeared, each one a synopsis and a link to the original article at my blog, which is called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. We'll try to keep you apprised of when these articles appeared at the blog, and you can go there and click on the appropriate date on the calendar to find the articles And this is the best of the blog, which I'm just saving Tom the
Well, it is. I'm not going to argue that point. At this point, I usually pipe in and say that some of these articles are extremely interesting.
Yeah,
and
some
we
of them
don't
are.
We could spend the whole show
Okay.
on just one of them. So.
Well, let's start with one from an organization called Truth Out.
Well, the show is not real fake.
No.
But what we're going to talk about
Is real fake.
So bring that up quickly so you remember what it says.
Oh, by the way, I should say this is from the 21st of March. If you want to look at it.
Alrighty. And it's who is behind Trump's claim the Green New Deal will cost $100 trillion. And that's the real fake part of it.
Yeah. President Trump's claim that the Green New Deal will cost $100 trillion can be traced back to the Manhattan Institute, a think tank backed by fossil fuel investor Paul Singer.
It's a rather conservative think tank.
This is not conservative.
No, but
This is radical pseudo-conservative. and companies like ExxonMobil, the figure was a guesstimate tweeted without cost analysis. In other words, it was just made up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And I want to point out for anybody who's interested in listening, I'm a conservative. I've voted Republican straight from the first time Richard Nixon ran for president until
You
George W. Bush.
Solid background.
Yeah, and when I realized that the Republicans were producing wrong information about climate change, I stopped dealing with voting for Republicans unless they accept the idea of climate change. And we're going to be talking about one later in this show who does that.
We will.
And so in the last election, when it was Hillary versus Donald, when the National Rifle Association endorsed Donald Trump, I resigned my life membership. And when it came to the actual election, I voted for the person who was the closest to Theodore Roosevelt, the kind of many conservatives consider an ideal, and that person was Bernie Sanders.
Interesting. How things change.
You look at Bernie Sanders' 2016 platform, and you look at Theodore Roosevelt's 1912 platform, they are virtually identical, except for things that have happened in between.
In between, right.
Roosevelt was in favor of women voting, and since that's no longer an issue, Bernie Sanders had other issues that were similar.
Well, we got a little story about how this happened.
Yeah.
A fellow named Brian Riedel.
Put yourself up.
I could do that.
Everybody should see what. Nobody wants to see me anyway.
Brian Riedel who's with the Manhattan Institute.
Yeah.
Okay, floated his guesstimate on the cost of the New Deal.
Yep.
That must be heading towards $100 trillion. He admitted he had no idea how much these things cost.
And he also didn't have any idea how much it would save to do this.
Or anything like that. Well, what happened was the claim reverberated across social media.
Yes.
And right-wing media outlets, and soon found its way into President Trump's bully pulpit.
Bully pulpit.
As he attacked the Green New Deal.
Well,
he stuck with this $100 trillion
$100 trillion
during his speeches. So that's where it all came from.
It's
as the sign says,
it's fake
real
news.
Fake.
Yeah. Anyway, we should keep going.
This is an interesting
one. We're going to do an item from North American Wind Power. We're still on March 21st.
Smithfield Foods are adding wind turbines to Colorado hog farms.
This is interesting because of the number of turbines here and the amount of electricity.
It is. I mean, it had me confounded for a while.
It was like, what? Distributed wind developer United Wind has signed an agreement with Smithfield Foods, Inc., Incorporated, to power dozens of Smithfield hog farms in Colorado with on-site wind energy. The partnership involves more than 50 distributed wind turbines totaling 3 megawatts.
Say that word again, distributed.
Well, distributed.
That's what it means. That's
more than
a special
50.
meaning.
Yeah, it means that these things are distributed. So
they're small.
The little farms, these farms are not little, but the farms where these turbines are being placed have their own turbines. And it was interesting to me to think, 3 megawatts, really? 3 megawatts isn't even a huge onshore wind turbine, and it's small for offshore.
Well,
and
6 megawatts is big.
6
today.
megawatts is big, but
10 is pushing the envelope.
yeah, but 3 megawatts is made up of 50 wind turbines.
Yeah.
These things are 60
Well,
kilowatts
not from
each.
10 kilowatts on it. They're like you see in a farm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they are.
That's what they are, except they don't look like what you see in a farm. They
A
look
little
like
taller.
and
but
3
they're small.
blades instead of all those
Yeah.
around. Okay.
You've been watching too many westerns.
Yeah, that's right. And I have been, but you know, you see these things all over the place. Okay.
Well, we got another picture coming
An
up
item
here.
from Clean Technica now.
There is the picture. And that's
There's
an
the picture.
interesting
It's an
night.
interesting
Now,
picture.
that ship is called the Energy Observer, and
Right.
we've talked about it before.
We have indeed. You want to read the title, Tom?
Hydrogen, wind, and solar-powered yacht, Energy Observer, calls on Antwerp.
Well, I
that's
can
the
tell you,
news. That's what's going
This
on.
picture is not a picture of Antwerp.
I hope not.
The Yacht Energy Observer, the world's first ocean-going zero-transmission catamaran, arrived in Antwerp, however you pronounce it. It is the 34th port of call since it began its around-the-world cruise in June of 2017. People can visit to learn about the ship and its round-the-world voyage. And that picture is interesting because,
I'll get the picture back.
yeah, I mean, people are living on this ship as it goes around the world. And
Oh, yeah.
you can see that the roof of it is all made up of solar panels.
You can just sort of make out the
wind
turbines
turbines.
in the back.
The wind turbines are interesting little devices.
They're
because
vertical.
They're vertical and they have helical blades.
Yep.
So I think this is an interesting thing.
Well, if you're interested, there's a neat 2-minute video on this website
yeah.
that shows this
Yes.
thing. You know, and
Yes.
it's informative.
Yep.
By the way, this ship is not new. They built this thing 30 years ago,
Yeah. Okay.
incorporating all of these advances then.
Yeah. Well, they've probably got more advances.
I think
now.
so.
That was from Clean.
It's on a round-the-world trip now,
Yeah.
anyhow.
That was from Clean Technica, and we are now up to Friday, March 22nd. with
Well,
an
you want
item.
a little rundown on the ship?
Do we have time?
I think we'll make time.
Okay.
It's powered by electric motors running on 100% renewable energy, thanks to solar panels mounted on the deck, vertical wind turbines mounted near the stern, the picture's still up, and hydrogen made on board from desalinated seawater.
How about that?
And they're using the hydrogen fuel at night, or if there's not sufficient wind or energy to power the ship. So they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, this is an interesting item.
All right, so let's
Okay,
move along.
now we're up to March 22nd with an item from The Guardian.
Okay, now. ExxonMobil faces a EU Parliament ban after a no-show at a climate hearing. How
What?
could they do that?
Yeah, ExxonMobil faces losing lobby privileges at the European Parliament after it failed to show up for the first hearing into climate change denial. So
Yep.
EU is looking into climate change denial. Previously, only Monsanto has ever lost access to the European MPs, members of Parliament, parliamentary meetings and digital resources.
Well, they've been being, how would you say it? It has drawn the ire
Yes.
of scientists, academics, environmentalists to accuse it of peddling climate misinformation.
Well,
which they are. They have been.
I have
They've
no
known the
doubt
truth
that that's what
for a
they're doing.
long time.
Yes. Okay. Thomas Reuters Foundation has brought us this next one, which, by the way, has a picture.
We got another picture.
We have another
and
picture.
And I will get that picture up there. Boy, that's a big solar array.
That's a big solar array. Not exactly a pretty sight, but, better than
It's a big one.
coal-burning power plants.
U.S. solar and wind farms call the Green New Deal too extreme.
Now, this
is
is interesting because the U.S. solar and wind farms, which would benefit from
would
this,
think.
are calling it too extreme. But one of the things that I find
It's
really
politics.
interesting is why they're calling it.
All right, you're going to tell us that.
Representatives of America's clean energy companies are withholding their support for the climate-fighting plan, calling it unrealistic and too politically sensitive. The solar and wind industries are keen to grow their businesses in both red and blue states.
That's what's going on.
That's what's going on. And I want to make a comment here, and I think I kind of suspect Tom will agree with me. I don't think the energy section of the Green New Deal is at all too unrealistic.
Well, we'll talk about it later. I mean, it's about a lot more than energy and a lot more than climate.
It sure is. It
Energy
sure is.
and climate is probably less than 10% of the whole proposal.
Yeah, but the proposal, I suspect, would not only not cost $100 trillion.
Oh, no.
It might make this company put into this country's production numbers, hundreds of billions of dollars every year.
Well,
because we're going to hire a bunch of people if we do
It's got
this.
the Republicans scared to death just because the name is popular.
Well, there's
most people don't even know what's in it.
Yeah, including the people who have backed it, because it hasn't been fully fleshed out at all.
No,
not even close.
No, nowhere near it.
Okay, our next item is that was from Thomson Reuters Foundation. This next one is from Clean Technica.
Okay, Ford announces plans to build electric and autonomous cars in Michigan.
Ford announced it will invest $850 million to prepare its iconic Flat Rock assembly plant for building battery electric cars.
Which is in Michigan.
That's in Michigan. And the company says it will spend an additional $50 million to equip that factory to manufacture autonomous vehicles.
Now, that's an interesting thing.
Well, you know, this autonomous vehicles thing,
They're coming.
they're coming. You know, it's kind of weird to think. I feel kind of weird about this because we're getting into an environment where we're pressing the environmental ability to sustain us so hard that it's not going to do it if we push any harder. And
this is one of those things. Huh?
Well, the point that I'm making is we have to get our technology behind making changes, and these autonomous vehicles are going to be more efficient, and they are going to have less destruction in terms of accidents, loss of life, and things like that.
Well,
Almost
technically,
certainly.
they're safer.
They are, but there's a lot of resistance to that, and I'm not happy about certain things, like what happens if there's a general outage and these cars don't work?
Good point. Nobody's talking about that.
Well,
maybe some people are. I just missed it.
I mean, we have to think about such things. Should we move on, Tom?
Well, a quick one here is Flat Rock is currently making Ford Mustangs and Lincoln Continentals.
Okay.
They're going to replace that with a new SUV theoretically inspired by a Mustang. Now, how you can get an SUV inspired by a Mustang is beyond me.
Remember the history of the Mustang. It came out as a car that any woman could fix with a screwdriver.
Oh, yeah?
Originally, it was a very simple car, and it was specifically targeted
I had one. It
at
was
women.
very simple.
And within a couple of years, it was a muscle car.
Yeah, the famous pony car.
It's like
here's
Thunderbird.
What the famous pony car has to do with a boxy SUV is anybody's guess. Well, S for SUV stands for sports.
Yeah.
What an SUV has to do with sports is anybody's guess.
It's useful for transporting
football teams.
Grade school football teams. Yes.
The company says it will be sporty.
Uh-huh.
I guess sporty is a good word for selling cars. I don't know.
Yeah,
and it has a range of 300 miles.
Well, that's important.
Well, let's move along. We've got an image coming up here, too.
We do indeed, and this is Saturday, March 23rd.
Well, as you might notice, that's an image of a factory.
Well, it's sort of a factory.
It's a research
center.
The potential of ammonia as a carbon-free fuel is a major new research project at the University of Aarhus.
Well, this is from Clean Technica. A major new research project at the Department of Engineering at Aarhus University could revolutionize production of ammonia. And ammonia has the potential to revolutionize the entire energy and transport sector.
Well, it does.
It does. And we've talked about this
many times. It may turn out
past.
to be the transition between gas and electric, because you can recharge your battery, in effect, by replacing the fluid.
Well, ammonia is one of those things, chemicals, that's just kind of amazing. Water is amazing. Titanium dioxide is amazing. Ammonia is amazing, and you can use it in fuel cells.
Yeah.
It is at a reasonable temperature. Ammonia can be held and pressure. Ammonia can be held as a liquid.
As a liquid, right? That's the point I just was trying to make.
And
it can be burned as a liquid fuel.
It can be. This is interesting stuff. Now, liquid ammonia. This is not something that you go down to the hardware store and buy. This is
no. It's not the same stuff.
No. You don't want to have this stuff in your kitchen.
That stuff is ammonia, like a small bit of ammonia dissolved in water.
Yeah.
Ammonia is nasty stuff.
Ammonia is. Yeah, I've dealt with ammonia, and it's not something you want in your kitchen.
Well, I used to work, when I was a kid, I worked
But you don't want gasoline in your kitchen either.
No, when I was a kid, I worked for a company called Good Humor, remember them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they had all these trucks, and the trucks were frozen by ammonia. So the whole factory had these ammonia pipes spread through so that they could load up the trucks at night.
Wow.
And every once in a while, one of them would leak. And it stunk. It was, they had to evacuate the...
Well, ammonia will kill you if it's
So they said,
yeah, too
you better get out of
concentrated.
here. There's an ammonia leak.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Okay.
move along here.
Our next one is from the Weather Channel.
Well, we didn't even talk about this one, did we?
Which? University of Aarhus? I read the
Yeah,
thing.
we did. We've been
Yeah.
talking about ammonia, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's move along to the Weather Channel.
Yeah. What's the title?
I was looking to see if I had a picture. I don't. California in extreme peril from fire threat. Duh, says the governor. Declares a statewide fire emergency to prepare. Well, I would expect him to do something like that.
Yeah, except there's no fires.
Right now, there's none.
That's the interesting thing. California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a statewide wildfire emergency, citing, quote, extreme peril, end quote, to life and property. The declaration suspends environmental and bidding practices to speed forest clearing. In other words, he's saying, we know that the next fire season is going to be so bad that we've got to start the emergency now, before it even starts.
That's exactly what he said.
Now, we had an item on this show, and I don't remember whether it was last time or the time before, but I think it was one of the two, in which we were talking about the fact that the forest fires in California, because the climate has warmed and humidity and so forth has changed.
The climate change.
The
right?
whole thing from climate change has made these forest fires
More vulnerable.
Yeah, and it has got to a point where it doesn't matter what the weather is. The forest fires.
We talked
are gonna
about
happen.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked
so
about exactly
that's
that.
something to consider here, and that I think was one of the things that he had in mind when he was doing that.
Well, what he in fact said in this case, the risks we face mean we simply can't wait until the fire starts in order to start deploying emergency resources.
There you go.
So he's preparing for the fires by
that's right.
thinning forests
if you
and
want to
stuff
think
like
about
that.
it, if there was a massive fire outside a city, and you had prairie grass and things like that, or forests, and you could see that the fire was coming, you don't have to start when the buildings start burning down.
No, you get that stuff out of there
You
quick.
get that stuff out
That's
there.
just exactly what this is about.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's about. Okay, our next
Well, we got
item
a
is
picture
from
coming up.
Associated Press, and we have a picture of the Navajo generating station.
And we've talked about that and the
Many
coal mine
times.
that supplies it.
Oh, yeah.
And the interesting thing about it, I looked this up on a map, it's in a place called Monument Valley.
Yes,
It's about 10 miles away from some of the most beautiful territory in America.
that's right.
If you ever watched an old John Wayne Western, you've seen the Monument Valley. I mean, it's fabulous.
Take a look at Stagecoach. Now
Bingo, that's
that was
exactly
a
right.
great movie, great movie. And that was John Wayne. And they
that
had
was-
pictures of Monument Valley in there.
Only problem with Stagecoaches is black and white.
Oh, Stagecoaches! You don't notice in that movie after you're about 10 minutes into it because
No, it's
the movie
fabulous.
is so good.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Associated Press.
Navajo Nation Company ends bid to buy power plant and coal mine.
One of the largest coal power plants in the West will close this year as planned, as the Navajo Nation Company ended its long-shot bid to acquire it. The Navajo Transitional Energy Company had looked into buying the power plant and the coal mine to save revenue and jobs. They were getting money out of this plant,
Well, they were all working there.
but they had 800 people working there.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
This is between the mine and the plant. The mine is only providing coal to that
the
plant.
Right.
So when the plant closes down, the mine closes down. There's no way to get the coal out of it and onto the
Got a little
onto the market.
railroad going between
They
the
have
two.
a little railroad.
Yeah.
And this is they just looked at. Well, we'll get into reasons why coal plants aren't economical
Well,
anymore.
that's the reason. They couldn't sell the power for enough money to make it worthwhile.
Right. So what they're doing now is they have new legislation in the Navajo Nation, which is looking at how do we make money out of renewable power.
Okay.
Yeah. We are up to Sunday, March 24th, with an item from Yahoo News. Yahoo.
Yahoo! Wow. U.S. government warns there's a spring flood risk for 2/3 of the lower 48.
Wow, by the way, is part of the title.
Yes,
It's
it is.
actually there in the title. Historic floods have deluged vast swaths of the Midwest, but NOAA, this is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says the floods are not close to being over. The agency's 2019 spring outlook found that nearly 2/3 of the lower 48 states are at risk for flooding in the coming months.
Well, there's a map on this site, and
Yep.
it shows you that Vermont and New Hampshire are at a slight risk.
At a
for
slight
flood.
risk,
Yes,
yeah.
especially the northeast of both states.
Right, but I could certainly see a hurricane like Irene forming. We had floods here in Brattleboro.
Oh,
and they
sure.
were not
well,
good.
That's not. We're not talking about hurricane floods. We're talking about the
But
the weather floods
this is
from
just floods in general. And
Well, in the north central part of the country, this map is grim.
yes, it is.
It really is. We're talking about Minnesota. We're talking about Nebraska. We're talking about states that are really, well, they're flooding already.
Yes.
They're flooding now.
They were flooding before winter ended.
Yep.
And they are expecting those floods to get worse in many places. Cooper nuclear plant almost shut down because of rising
We
water.
mentioned that,
Yep.
yeah. The
Okay.
flooding is already forecast to cost well over $1 billion in damages.
I think it's going to be more than that.
It probably will, yeah. Well
Okay.
over $1 billion.
So we have a picture
Yeah, I got
here,
another picture here, yeah.
of a skier
ski
whose
racer.
name is Petra, and it is
Petra Vilhova.
okay, I'll buy that.
Or maybe it's
I don't know-
Wilhova. It
I don't know
begins
how
with
to
a V.
pronounce VLHOVA. Somebody told me yesterday that the letter V
Yeah.
in Polish is a word. You don't have to have a vowel.
yeah?
It's just v. V means
How do you
in.
say it?
It means v. It means in, like a place to stay. That's
Well,
what I got.
let's talk about what's going on here.
Okay, this is from CNN.
And CNN usually is a good site to visit.
They have some good pictures.
Okay,
in
we'll
this one.
talk
The
about that
pictures just
because-
went on and on and on. It was hard to
Well,
pick this one.
there's a lot of pictures in this site, and some of them
guess.
are really stunning. You
Yes,
know, they're
some of them
pictures
are
of
beautiful.
some of the mountains that they ski on.
Yep.
How climate change is affecting the World Cup ski racing circuit, and it really is. It's
Yeah.
changing a lot of things.
For those who compete in the snow, climate change is obvious. From shrinking glaciers and inadequate snow cover to tempestuous storms and too much of the white stuff, racers on the World Cup circuit have to adapt to conditions noticeably different than they were just 10 years ago. Now, we had that picture of a ski resort in Bolivia. Do you remember that? It was a ski resort where people would be skiing on glacial snow, and all of the snow melted, so there's no skiing anymore.
It's not a ski resort anymore.
not a
Yeah, I
ski
remember
resort.
that. Yep, they've had to close it.
They
right.
had to
And
close
it. Was
it.
way up in the mountains. too.
Way up in the mountains, beautiful place, but it was all snow 20 years ago, and today it's dry as a bone.
Well, if you got the time, this is a good one to visit because there's lots of pictures.
A lot
Some
of
of them
pictures.
are stunning, really.
Yeah, some of them are
And
really
there's several
amazing.
short videos, and CNN usually does a good job.
Sometimes.
There's also a takeaway from the article.
Yes?
Ski racing fan, movie star, politician, and environmental activist Arnold Schwarzenegger
I'll be
called
back.
out President Trump for his silence on climate change, saying he was making a big mistake by pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California as a Republican, and he's fairly conservative.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we have an item coming up now from the union
We're
leader.
coming a little bit closer to home here.
Yes.
New Hampshire officials unhappy with neighbor's nuclear option.
This is an interesting article, I think. New England states have aggressive goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adopt clean energy. But some New Hampshire officials fear that Connecticut's decision to support the Millstone nuclear plant will increase costs for Granite State residents. So they're saying the fact that Connecticut is supporting the Millstone nuclear plant means that people in New Hampshire will pay more for electricity.
That's basically what they're saying, yep.
Okay.
And Governor Sununu is adamant that New Hampshire will not pay for other states to subsidize nuclear
Sounds
energy.
like Mexico's going to pay for the wall. I don't know. We have this, it's strange. And I'm not trying to put Governor Sununu down. It's just sometimes these costs are difficult to control. And it is I would think that the people in Connecticut should pay for their own nuclear power plant, but we live in a thing called ISO New England, which Okay, we are up to Monday, March 25th, with an item from Clean Technica, and there's another picture. Again, a solar array. It might even be the same solar array that we saw.
It could be. I don't think it is, because I think those other arrays were flat. But
well, yeah.
It's still a pretty big array.
Yep.
It's a good sized one.
Yep.
This one's in California.
Yep.
Well, we think it is. I guess it is. Yeah, it's in California. California Solar sets a record, but that's not the big news.
On March 16th, California set a new record for solar energy when solar output peaked at 10,765 megawatts, breaking a record set last June and supplying, this is an amazing figure, 59% of the grid demand for California. That does not include distributed solar, however, and which would bring the figure to nearly
small localized stuff.
16 gigawatts. So, okay, I've got a question for you, Tom.
Yeah.
If 10,765 megawatts is 59%, what percentage are they getting from 16 gigawatts? You're pushing 90% here.
They're getting up there.
And okay, that's just solar power. What did they get anything from wind here? Did they get anything from geothermal? I think they got very close to 100% of the electricity.
It's pretty likely. It's pretty likely that they did.
Yeah.
And opponents of renewables like to point out that the cost of electricity in California has gone up.
Yeah.
But they attribute this entirely to the expense of building wind and solar facilities, which is false.
The reason why the costs have gone up are complicated, but they include, I mean, PG&E is going bankrupt.
Well, they include trying to keep the old ones running.
Yeah.
Duh.
It's expensive. Okay.
They also exclude any intangible, but very real, health and environmental benefits.
They want to do that. They want to make it sound like you can drive your car, you can use oil in your home, it's not going to affect anybody, when in fact we are losing a lot of people. I'm talking about dead every year.
Well, they never include that in the cost.
They want to exclude it from the cost.
They don't want us to think about that.
If people knew how much it was, and there have been people who have calculated it, the figure I keep coming back to is the American Lung Association in California calculated that the cost in Vermont of medical problems from our use of fossil fuels only in transportation is $330 million a year, which is $480 per person per year in the state.
People getting sick.
People getting sick. And that would indicate that if you include
all use lung disease and stuff.
Yep, all of the fossil fuels, you're talking about over $1,000 per person per year. Family of 5, you're spending $5,000.
We never think about that stuff because they don't want us to think about it.
Yeah, literally. I don't go for conspiracy theories very often.
Oh,
but here's a conspiracy theory that I could go for because it looks like it's just too obvious.
It only takes 2 to conspire.
No, in my case, I can build a conspiracy with just one.
Come on, that's a good one.
I'm really good at this. Okay.
Well, we'll talk about one of the big companies here. First Utility, which is the company, it rebrands as Shell Energy Retail. So Shell's getting into the business. Well, Shell bought First Utility.
Yes. Okay. This is from Utility Week. A year after Shell acquired First Utility, it has rebranded the supplier as Shell Energy Retail and confirmed that, this by the way is in the UK, that it has switched more than 700,000 homes in Britain to 100% renewable energy. Isn't that interesting considering this is a petroleum company?
Well,
Shell Energy Research said it will roll out a quote, range of smart home technology offers, end quote, throughout the year.
Well, Shell has recently announced their plans to become the world's largest power company. And we mentioned that last week.
They're looking to get out of the petroleum business.
They are.
Yeah.
And all of Shell, SER, Shell Energy Retail's electricity comes from 100% renewable.
Yeah.
So they're doing it right.
Yeah. Okay, we've got an item here from
we got
publication
a
called
too.
Vice, V-I-C-E, all uppercase. And this fella is a guy named Matt Getz. And what do you got for a title, Tom?
DC's Trumpiest congressman. Take a look at him. He's DC's Trumpiest
congressman. Yeah.
Says the GOP needs to get real on climate change.
Now, this
so he's disagreeing with Trump, I would say.
I would say so. This is interesting, partly because he's disagreeing with a guy he agrees with most, and partly because of the quote he comes up with. Florida's 36-year-old Congressman Matt Getz was deemed by GQ, quote, the Trumpiest congressman in Trump's Washington, end quote. Nevertheless, asked about climate change, he said, quote, we can believe the climate deniers or we can believe our eyes, end quote.
That's a good quote.
It is.
I read this about an interview.
Yes.
And it's a good interview. I mean, it's long. We don't have a lot of time to talk about it here, but they cover a lot of issues.
They do.
If you got the time, look it up.
Yeah.
Getz himself holds orthodox GOP views on a range of issues, from abortion to guns. But unlike the majority of Republicans, Getz is a firm supporter for climate science. A quote from him is, history will judge very harshly those who are climate deniers.
Yes.
And he argues that renewable energy and electric cars can be great for the U.S. economy.
I have no doubt that he's right about that. Okay, I wouldn't, he's probably, he probably has beliefs and intentions that I wouldn't support as a conservative. But nevertheless,
Well, he thinks the Green New Deal is not realistic, for one thing.
Well, again, the Green New Deal is only about 10% energy.
Yeah, we'll cover
but
that.
on the other hand, speaking as a conservative,
yeah,
I'm not so sure that it's a bad idea. In fact, I support it.
To the degree that it's been announced to what it includes, I support it too. I mean, we'll be talking about that again later.
Yeah,
before
and
the show's out.
I just think it should be called something other than the Green New Deal.
Well, so do the Republicans.
If it had a different name, maybe they'd support it.
Well, it's interesting. I observed this. If you talk to them about some of the items that has already been mentioned for the Green New Deal, they're in favor of them.
Yes.
But as soon as you put the Green New Deal
there you go.
label on it, whoa, the hands go up.
Okay, we are up to Tuesday.
Up to Tuesday already?
March 26th with an item from Gizmodo.
Gizmodo. Shutting down. This is an interesting one.
This is a super interesting article. And by the way, Gizmodo was one of about 75 different organizations that I saw articles like this from. But go ahead, Tom.
Shutting down almost every coal plant and swapping for renewables would save money. Duh.
Few reports make really clear how much the U.S. coal is a dead man walking. Energy innovation analysis shows that it would cost less to tear down 74% of U.S. coal plants and replace them with renewables than to let them keep operating.
That's based on today's situation.
Now, we've talked about stranded assets, and what they're saying is those coal plants are going to be stranded assets.
Absolutely.
They're already not competitive. But of course,
dead men walking, as you said.
Yeah, we have a situation here where people who have read Ayn Rand and believe that greed is good and the free market economy should be allowed to prevail, say, okay, we need those coal burning power plants, so we're going to subsidize them. That's what is coming from
they're
Donald
talking
Trump.
about that in several states, and
they are.
I don't think it's a very good idea.
I think it's a terrible idea. I mean, yeah, okay. Okay, we are up to.
I got a
you have a
takeaway from here. That
takeaway.
number that they're talking about, 74%, will only continue to rise into the future as renewables continue on their way to becoming among the cheapest sources of energy.
Well, they're already there.
We've talked about that many times here.
Yeah.
The analysis doesn't include anything about the societal toll.
Again, the external costs. Now, if you include
contaminated groundwater, health issues.
If you count the fossil fuels, and this includes oil, gas, and coal, to produce a gigawatt hour of electricity, wind turbines will kill one bird, very roughly.
Okay.
Okay. To produce the same amount of electricity from fossil fuels, you kill 20 to 40 birds.
Okay.
And that's just...
I don't know how they figured that out.
Well, I actually looked into this at one point where I was studying how in the world do you figure out a thing like that. And I looked and I found that in 2012, the estimate is 440,000 birds were killed by wind turbines in the United States.
Well, it sounded logical, you know. There's this thing spinning in the prairie, you know, and the birds are going to hit it.
Far
The birds
above,
are too smart.
far above where most birds fly. These things are very tall. Anyway,
But the birds are smart
thought,
enough to avoid them.
Yeah, I thought, how in the world do they know?
Aha.
So I started looking into studies
Okay.
and how those studies were conducted. And I came across one study where they said, we set up at one plant and we studied what was going on at that one plant, finding the bodies of the birds that were killed, counting them. And then in addition to that, we made an estimate of the number of other birds, which was based on finding piles of feathers where some scavenger animal
Like
had...
a fox got it or something.
Yeah, seeing a fox run away with a duck.
Okay.
Seeing a seagull flying off with the body of a sparrow.
Okay.
And they made an estimate. 1,700 and some odd birds actually found. Approximately 200% of that was they estimated. So they had 5,000 birds killed at one site.
5,000 of them.
5,000.
Wow.
Now think about this. All of the wind turbines in the United States killed 440,000, but this one site there was 5,000 birds. Now, there's one little gotcha in this.
Okay.
No wind turbines. The site had 7 generators, 6 coal, and 1 nuclear.
And the birds are flying into the cooling towers.
The birds were flying into the cooling towers. The birds were flying into the chimneys.
Yeah.
But the thing that really gets me about fossil fuels is the birds that are poisoned.
Birds that are poisoned.
By the emissions, by the gas, by the
all right.
diesel emissions
Okay.
from the trucks that drive under their nests.
Okay.
You know.
You don't think about that.
No. We should move on probably.
I think we should.
Okay.
I was just going to say something. Nobody ever talks about it, but in New York City, where there's a lot of skyscrapers,
Yeah.
a lot of birds are killed
Yeah.
every morning. There's
Yes.
birds all over the sidewalk. I mean, that's a fact.
Yes. It happens. There's no
happens.
question.
And nobody
I
talks
used to
about
live in a house that had 5 picture windows in the living room.
Yeah.
3 on one wall, 2 on another. And if you were a bird, you could see right through this thing to the
boy.
sunlight on. My cat sat under the picture windows and just sat there waiting for the birds to die.
Money for nothing.
Yeah. Okay, we have an item here about air pollution.
Got a picture here, too.
We
don't
do.
We do.
And this comes from CNN.
And I try to get that picture up there. And
There you go.
Oh, boy. This is a nasty picture.
That's a nasty
That's a
picture.
very nasty
Yeah,
picture.
it's a very nasty picture.
And it is unsurprisingly called air pollution.
Well, that's what I called it.
What does it say underneath it?
It says air pollution, but that's the title I put on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, what's the title?
Well,
What do
got
you
the
have for the
title
title
right
of the
anyhow.
article?
Slashing fossil fuel use could save millions of lives at risk due to air pollution. Didn't we just talk about
I
that?
think we did. This millions of lives, by the way, is every year. Air pollution causes many premature deaths, which can cause heart, lung, and other diseases worldwide. 3.61 million people die each year due to outdoor pollution caused by fossil fuels, an international team of researchers estimates. You know, that might be the number of soldiers and sailors and airmen who were killed every year in the Second World War. This is a major problem. This is not a joke. People are dying.
It's a big number, 361 million people.
It's a lot of people. And think about the number of people who get sick and have to deal with the sickness.
Who haven't died,
Yeah.
but they got COPD or something,
Terrible stuff.
walking around with a cane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is CNN. It came from CNN. And like
Yep.
CNN, there's usually something good on CNN to watch.
Yes.
In this case, there's a video
Yes.
called How Deadly is Air Pollution? Where they
Okay.
address just exactly this. It's only a minute.
Yeah.
Take the opportunity to look at it.
Yep.
Let's see if I got anything from here. The researchers used a global model to estimate the climate and public health outcomes attributable to fossil fuel use. Beyond the direct health benefits, rapidly decreasing fossil fuel emissions would increase rainfall in drought-prone regions,
In other
boosts food security,
Yeah.
and save people's lives.
What's the downside? Well, the downside is 2 guys in Wichita don't have as much money next year. Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. We have an item from Forbes.
Came from Forbes here. Puerto Rico has just passed its own Green New Deal.
Interesting. Puerto Rico has passed a bill to radically reform transform the island's economy with renewable energy as the central pillar. Its legislature improved Senate Bill 1121, the Puerto Rico Energy Public Policy Act, which will set the island on a path to 100% renewable energy by 2050.
Well, I think the hurricane in Puerto Rico has pointed out the deficiencies of the Puerto Rican grid, and the governor is in favor of big time of renewable energy.
Right.
So there's a lot can be done in Puerto Rico, and this guy wants to do it.
Yeah, and this passed the Senate, but it's unimaginable to me that it would get stalled after that. I think this will become
He's going to pass it.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Okay.
On the average, this has happened after the storm. Households went 84 days without electricity after Hurricane Maria.
Some of them went a year.
The most isolated regions were almost a whole year to be reconnected.
Yep.
A big problem. And also, this is something you don't think about. Puerto Ricans currently pay over double the electricity rates they pay in Florida.
Yeah. Well, they're poor. You know, it's okay to charge them extra.
Well, it's largely due to the high cost of shipping fossil fuels to run the diesel generators.
Oh, yeah. What about that?
Well, what we've heard so far is that Puerto Rico is going to be going big time renewable.
You know,
Distributed
as I
renewables.
read this and thought about the way that the Puerto Ricans have been treated by the federal government of the United States, of which they are a territory, they're part of this country.
They're citizens.
They have a flag that is based on the flag of the United States, and it is remarkably similar to the flag of Cuba.
Yeah, it's a mirror image or color image.
The Cuban flag
They're
is
both
a little
red,
different.
white, and blue.
They're both red, white, and blue, and they're both based on the flag of the United States, not the
Okay.
Soviet Union. But nevertheless, you know, the Puerto Ricans have been treated really badly.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question about
They're
it.
colonies. They've just been exploited.
They've been exploited, yeah. Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, coming up to Wednesday. This is the last day.
This is the last
We
day.
got
and we've
11
got
minutes left.
11 minutes left. So we're going to have to. We're going
we
to
can cover
have
it.
to speak very slowly.
Well, let's start by giving the title for this one.
Okay.
Battery and offshore wind costs tumble. And there's a picture here.
There
I didn't bring
is.
the
Yes,
picture up.
that's right. And I forget. I think that's. I forget which wind farm that's from. This is from Renews. Prices for lithium-ion battery storage as well as offshore wind have fallen more sharply than other clean generation technologies in the past year, according to Bloomberg New Energy Finance. The price for energy from lithium-ion batteries has fallen 35% since the first half of 2018.
Bingo, you're on a roll, baby.
35% in 1 year.
That's better than a third, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what?
What?
2018 was after the Hornsberg power. Hornsberg,
The one in England?
the one in Australia, the battery that
Oh, the world's largest battery.
world's largest
Yeah,
battery.
yeah.
This is 35. It's fallen 35% since a time after that huge battery in South Australia was put
Well,
in.
Musk has just built a factory. I think it's in Buffalo to build nothing but batteries.
I mean, we're getting into
The times they are changing.
They are
folks.
changing. You know, this $175 per megawatt hour is significantly lower priced than the price of power from fossil fuel peaking plants.
Well, costs for offshore wind have come down by 25%.
We're in a
third,
point,
a third for storage, a quarter for wind.
Yeah.
I mean, the times are changing.
The times are changing, and what's happening? You know, you look at this and you say, yeah, of course it's going to cost more to keep coal-burning power plants open than to power them with get power from solar and wind. And a lot of people don't understand this.
What they say here in the article is batteries co-located with solar or wind products are competing with coal and gas-fired generation for the provision of dispatchable power, which means power you can turn on and off at will.
This is base load power. It's going to
as
be
a
there
replacement for natural gas.
And what's happening now is we're getting into what I would call disaster area for the fossil fuels companies, because their costs are not going down.
They're going up.
And the costs of renewable power keep going down.
So we've used the word.
Now they are
stranded assets.
Stranded assets. Now they're at a point where they are no longer able to compete with fossil fuel burning plants that have already been built and paid down. So
they don't owe interest on them.
They don't owe interest, and they still can't compete. We're in a situation.
The times have changed. They're not changing. They have changed.
They have changed, and now we're in a last year in the United States, 65% of the new energy electricity capacity that went online in the United States came from natural gas. In the next year, I don't think it's going to be above 30%.
Well, we're going to talk about natural gas right next, so let's get into it.
Well, let's do that. This is from Reuters.
Germany's Uniper, which is a company,
Yep.
feeds wind power to methane into a gas grid.
I love this.
This is cool. This is lateral thinking.
This is really funny. A German utility, Uniper, has started producing...
That's not juniper like the tree, right?
I have Nancy Ray Mallory, who's the editor of Green Energy Times, which I write for. I told her about Uniper once, and she heard it as Juniper, and she has a granddaughter named Juniper.
Oh, that's interesting.
Little girl. Okay. German utility Uniper has started producing methane gas derived from wind power and feeding it into gas pipeline networks at its Falkenhagen site as the country seeks wider uses for its renewable energy.
Well, what they're doing here is when they have a surplus of energy, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So they can let it burn off into the air, or they can put it in batteries if they got the batteries. In this particular case, they're making methane.
That's right.
And they're selling the methane.
And this green methane is a replacement for natural gas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, this gets back to what I was saying when you cut me off.
Sorry about that. I stepped on your tongue.
That's okay. It's all right. I'm just kidding. The thing that I was saying was people don't realize, you hear this thing about the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, as an argument against the use of renewable power. Well, guess what, gang? You back them up, and you don't have to worry about that.
There are ways to store that power.
But with baseload power, which means coal, natural gas, nuclear, you need to back them up.
Well, they go down once in a while, too, and it takes a long time to get them back up.
Yeah, and not only that, there's a reason why they're called baseload.
Yeah.
And that is they supply the base load.
Like when nobody's using it.
When nobody is using optional amounts of power.
4 o'clock in the morning.
They are there to supply the amount of power that the people demand when they aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Everything else is in excess of that, and the baseload plants can't be ramped up. So that means all of the rest of the power has to come from someplace else.
Sort of, yeah.
Which means that they've got to have that backup, just like solar and wind.
And until it's changing now, some of these things were turbines on the end of a jet engine.
Yes.
And they cost a lot of money.
They cost a lot of money. We heard $187 per megawatt hour. Peaking plants can charge as much as $290 per megawatt hour. And so coal is not competing with with solar or wind in terms of just raw prices. Natural gas is not competing with solar and wind for raw prices. Neither is nuclear. And the extra power that you need to back them up, which is batteries for solar and wind or peaking plants, the batteries are outperforming the peaking plants. This is a serious problem.
They're instantly dispatchable.
They're instantly dispatchable. They dispatch better power than the peaking plants.
Yeah.
It's higher quality power. So what am I expecting? I am expecting that we're going to have a flat-out disaster in the next year or two, probably. And I've said this many times in the past, but we are now at a point where things are changing rapidly, and we're starting to see real crunch. And before
what these guys are doing is interesting.
Yeah.
They're taking the surplus power that they've got
Yes,
using electrolysis, which we all studied in high school physics. you know.
absolutely.
Okay, and they're making hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
And they're combining the hydrogen with the CO2 in the air
In the
to
atmosphere.
make methane.
They're taking the carbon out of the atmosphere
Yeah.
to make the methane.
And-
And then the methane is going
And they're
into the pipe.
releasing oxygen, the pollutant.
The pollutant is oxygen.
And it's brilliant. I mean, they got
brilliant.
extra energy and they're selling it as gas.
That's right. That's right. Okay, we are up to our last
Yeah, this is the
article.
last one here.
We have a
and
picture here of Alexandria Acacio Cortes.
That's who she is.
That's who she is.
She's a
Who
smart
is-
lady, this one.
She has become iconic at, what is she, 30
She's only
years?
29.
29?
Yeah.
I was going to say 30. This is a
That's
young
close.
woman who has got a lot going for her, and I wonder whether she's going to have a radical effect on this country that will be
She has already.
lasting for forever, or whether in fact she might burn out, because that
Or
can
be
happen.
assassinated or something.
It would
like
not
that.
be good, I don't think. This is a woman who has got a lot to say, and I think most of us should listen to it.
Well, this article also is from CNN.
Yes?
And it's got a video on it that's well worth watching.
Yes.
What exactly is the Green New Deal?
Yes.
It explains it to a great degree, and as you already said, there's a lot of stuff in the Green New
Actually,
Deal hasn't even been laid out. It's just a
The front
proposal.
page of Green Energy Times has an article which is basically about the same thing on the cover.
Oh, good.
On the front page, which I wrote.
Look
by
that
the way.
one up.
Yeah, I wrote it, and you can get it at the co-op.
And
for
it's free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just in a nutshell,
Yeah.
the Green New Deal is not just about climate change.
Yes.
And it's a proposal at this state, not a law. You got to
Okay.
think about both of those things.
What's the title, Tom?
Green New Deal stalls in Senate after largely political debate.
This is from CNN. Senators had a spirited debate over the merits of the Green New Deal, a broad energy proposal from liberal Democrats to battle climate change and other social ills, but no one was willing to vote to advance the measure before legislative language is written. How in the world could anybody vote for this? Well, it stalled.
It's political.
And that was exactly what Mitch McConnell wanted it to do, and that's why he made the vote happen.
Yep, exactly right.
And so most of the Republicans, all the Republicans who were there, voted against it. A couple of Democrats did. Most of the Democrats just said present, because they didn't want to vote for something that hadn't been, how do you vote for a law that hasn't been written yet?
Well, I got some takeaways from that.
Yeah.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell labeled it a socialist makeover of the entire U.S. economy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Minority Leader, who's a Democrat, accused McConnell of playing gotcha politics.
Well, if
Schumer said Republicans want to force this political stunt to distract from the fact that they have neither a plan nor a sense of urgency to deal with the threat of climate change.
Right.
Everyone knows it's a stunt, including the Majority Leader himself.
Yes. One thing I'd like to say, Tom,
Yeah.
I've been hearing from conservatives this terrible thing about socialism since I was in college or earlier.
Well, it
They're
used to be a
really
curse word.
worried about it. They use it today as a sneer
epithet.
word that they can throw at people.
Oh, absolutely.
And I remember being in a discussion about this with a friend of mine who was a conservative, and he said, any time the government owns something that could be done by private industry, that's socialism. And I said, wait a minute. The U.S. Postal Service could be done by private
The
organizations.
socialist U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah, and what you're telling me is that the guy who arranged for this, Benjamin Franklin, was a socialist. Well, I think we're out of time, Tom, and maybe we should
I think we are. Why don't we pull both of us up?
both
here
of us up
you
so
see
we
what
can
we look
wave
like?
goodbye to our many admirers
Let's see if I
or
can-
people who
I can
laugh
raise
at us
my
as we
right-
go by.
Raise my left hand to wave goodbye.
See you all later, or you see us later, or something.
And
Have
say
a-
goodbye
have
to
a good week.
Acacio up there in the background.
Yeah, that's right. And good night to you, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
There's Mrs. Calabash.
I don't think she's Mrs. Calabash. Bye-bye.